Behind the Shades.
I am Margo L. I am from Chicago, and I am a fitness, femininity, and voice coach. That's the short of it. Basically, a life transformation coach, because you got to start here before you start out here. And you can find me on Instagram at Complete Package Coaching. My website is completepackagecoaching.com. And also my YouTube channel, Margarita the Perfumista.
So take us right from the genesis. How did you get started doing this and why?
So what's interesting is I started as a performance coach back in 1997. People wanted me to give them voice lessons. I'm a singer, first and foremost, singer and songwriter, and people liked what they heard and they wanted me to teach them. So I was actually a child when I started my coaching company in 97. And what happened was it ballooned beyond what I could have imagined. I started training people for major events. I've coached people who were contestants in Miss Black USA, people on American Idol, The Voice, Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, like big shows, and also people who are doing more local things. I don't have a preference of, big shows versus smaller events. If you want to improve your performance, I'm here for you. And what I noticed in a lot of my female clients were that they could sing and they can dance, but they had no poise. They had no likability, no way to really engage and interact. And what people don't understand is that when you're a performer, people have to like you. People like a lot of people who honestly suck talent-wise, but because they're likable or relatable, they have fans. So I was like, well, we need to offer more than just voice and stage coaching. People need to know how to interact in the real world and with clients or in relationships. And so it kind of started from there. It ballooned from there. And then people started asking me for more life coaching and what's going wrong with this and what's going wrong with that. Why am I failing in my relationships? Why can't I find the right person? Because they've seen how my life has changed over the years. I used to be someone who was a horrible picker when it came to guys. I would pick everybody but the right person. Now, fast forward today, I've been happily married for over 15 years. And so people who have seen my transformation, both physically, mentally, and when the results I'm getting in life, they want to know why and they want to know how. And so I added that as a service. So now I offer femininity coaching and relationship coaching. So it just started from the music into, oh, you need to be more than this and that, which is why the company is called Complete Package. You have to be a complete package if you want to be successful in life. You can't just be one thing. You have to have all the pieces working together completely as a package.
I want to say, first and foremost, congratulations on that transition and the
Thank you.
expansion of
Thank
that.
you.
One thing I want to say, as you're sharing that, is I 100% agree. When I was in my 20s, I had no idea what I was doing when it came to dating. No idea. Plus, I was broke, so it made it even worse. But what I did realize was I had an idea of what I wanted. I just didn't know how to get what I wanted.
Mhm.
And some of the clients that you're working with, is that a struggle that they have where they've designed this life, the end result, but they don't
Mhm.
know how to create the path towards that goal?
That coupled with, because I coach women mostly, coupled with some unrealistic expectations. And so there's a lot of the things that it's a lot of, okay, well, I see we can ask for the moon, but if we get a few stars, that's still good. Even though we don't get the moon, it's okay that we still got some stars. We can make a little constellation over here. It's one of those things. So with women versus men, men are more practical. Women are more whimsical. We believe in the purple unicorns. Men are like, that's a horse. Okay, we can get a horse. We're gonna get. And so that's what I think is a big disconnect. So yes, while there are, people need a roadmap, you can't be trying to get to a place that doesn't exist either, if that makes sense.
I absolutely agree, because there are some times, as I'm older now, I look at some of the women I've been on dates with, and they'll say, I'll share a story. There's one girl I went on a date with, and it was a second date, and we didn't even kiss at this point, right? It was just, we had dinner, and she's like, Terrain, I really like you. I'm like, you know what, young lady, I like you too. Like, you're pretty, you're nice, blah, blah, blah. You even paid half the bill. And and she said, okay, this is my goal for the relationship. I was okay, let me know it. She said, in 6 months, I want to be married. In 9 months, I want to have a kid. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, are we gonna have sex first? Like, I didn't even know what was going on. I was like, to she totally, totally caught me off guard because that's a lot to drop on someone on the second date. And it goes back to your point when you said unrealistic expectations. Is it more so the outcome, or is it more so the type of guy where like he has to be 6 feet, six figures, and of course he has to have 6 inches when it comes to the expectations?
It's a resounding yes for everything. Also, the timelines can be unrealistic because we have this proverbial biological clock that seems to be ticking, and men don't have that typically physically. You know, men can have children as long as they're able to be productive. I'll put it that way. Whereas for us, you know, usually after 40, the chances typically diminish. So I do think that we have to understand who we're selling to. I see relationships and dating as clients and customers. I have a huge marketing background. That's like what my day job had been for years. And so we have to understand as women, when we're telling men our expectations, especially when the early stages of dating, we have to appeal to our consumer first before we drop in all the hidden fees. You know, let's sell him on the features first before we tell him before we read the fine print. You know, so it's like that. It's like, yeah, you could want to have your child in this time and be in this time, and things could eventually flow. I'll tell you this: me and my husband married after 3 months, so it's possible. It is possible to have a quick timeline, but I think because I was so willing to not put him under all this pressure in the beginning is what made him more willing to move faster with me. I think that's what it was. But when you just do this whole dump on him at the dinner table, and you all haven't even exchanged last names yet, like, you know what? I'm good. Yeah. It's about
To this
timing.
yeah, to this day, I don't even think I knew her last name. I don't even remember her first name now. It's to the point where when you have like trauma and you just put it in the closet, you close the door, you lock it, and off it goes. I
Yeah.
think it was probably one of those moments. And you mentioned 3 months, and I've
Yes.
heard that as well from a couple of other people where it's like it's not necessarily the length of time that you know the person, it's the quality of the time that you know the person. Would you say that is true?
Absolutely. In our dating phase, when I met him, I was actually in a relationship. I met him at my escape place. Let's just say that. And my escape place was we were skating. And so he would be someone who frequented the rink, and he was so polite. And he would make certain little comments that would be so cute as he rolled past. And, you know, I was with someone who I should not have been with for several years. And I told him that, you know, I really appreciate the compliments, but I am with someone, even though that relationship was terrible. So a few months went past. He would still always be very respectful, but say some cute little things. And he piqued my interest. I'm like, okay, he's consistent. So once I finally got free of the devil's son who I was with before, I told him, I let him know. I was like, you know, if the offer still stands, I'm amenable to it. And we went out that same day. And we had a great time, and we just let everything flow. And then 3 months later, we're like, yeah, this is gonna work. You know, this
Was there a conversation to understand where you wanted things to go?
there was. I asked him, oddly enough, on the second date, I asked him, what are we going to make of this? Because I will be honest now, because so much time has passed. He had me wrapped around his finger after the first date. I was so smitten. And it was honestly because of what built up to it, because of his consistency, yet respectfulness for my situation, regardless of what it was. He was just always expressing an interest in a very polite and very cute way. So he had my attention because most guys will come up and be very vulgar when they're interested in someone, or they'll just be like, oh, well, forget you then. They'll be mean if you say that you're not interested at that time. You know, I've had a guy throw a brick at me once because I told him I had a boyfriend. You know, so I had to like matrix dodge this brick. And so that helped. And then I asked him what he wanted, and he says, you know, I'll tell you what, let's continue on the path we're on and see where it leads us. And because I really wanted to be with him, and he was someone who I knew was way better than anything I had, and honestly out of my league at the time. I'm like, okay, I was willing to trust and allow him to lead and take that chance, if you will, to see where it went, and it led right to forever. So I have no regrets about not putting him under these constraints.
That is so beautiful. And that's a lesson for all of us who are looking to find love in all the right places, because I think we spend too much time trying to find it in all the wrong places. And
Mhm.
even you had that situation, as you mentioned, you were with someone for years. And the beautiful
Mhm.
thing that I liked what you said is that even though your previous relationship wasn't what you expected and it didn't turn out the other way, you didn't make the future person pay the price. And I think a lot of times what
Mhm.
we do in relationships is that when we come out of a bad one, the baggage carries forward, and that next person who is innocent of it all,
Mhm.
they pay the price. Do you find that with the women you help as well?
I find that true with myself. Now he paid some prices too. He paid some prices, but I will say that eventually I learned to stop charging him for someone else's sins. In the beginning, I was very skeptical. I had honestly written off relationships from my ex. It was that bad. It was terrible. And I was stuck on stupid. I blame myself for I can't blame the other party without blaming myself. I have to take responsibility because I stuck in it. And so I did come with some emotional baggage, some heavy baggage. And that baggage lasted for quite some time, actually. But he was strong enough and willing enough and compassionate enough to help me work through my own baggage. He helped me heal, which a lot of people are not willing to do, which made me appreciate him even more, especially in hindsight. Like, he didn't have to put up with all this stuff I poured on him, but he saw enough in me that I didn't even see in me, to help me heal. And in turn, I will have been able to help him heal, because women are worse on men than men are on us as far as the emotional component. We didn't realize the trauma we put men through. So it was a mutual beneficial thing. But yes, we do put people through the ringer when we have, previous traumas. But it is a crime that we should not continue to perpetuate. We should allow people to have a clean slate, because that's what we want. The first thing women say is, she did that. Why can't you trust me? That's not me, that's me. But then at the same time, we're looking at him side eye for the same thing. There's a double standard there. So yes, we should learn to not charge people for other people's sins. Yes, I agree.
I work with women who are trying to find love, and they're a little bit older. They're probably 50 plus. And
Mhm.
many of them will ask the question, they make the statement saying that they're too old for love. And I'm like, love doesn't have an expiry and it doesn't have an age. You can find it at any time in your life.
Can you please talk
And
to my mom, because she don't listen to me? Okay, I'm gonna, mom,
Mama
if you're
Margo,
watching this, right?
my email is behind the shades.
Look, I'm gonna
Reach
send this to
out.
my mom. Like, listen.
Absolutely. But that's the beautiful thing about it, because they probably, I think as you get older, you know exactly what you want. Well, let me take that back. As you get older, you should know exactly
Right.
what you want. And I remember, although I struggled in dating when I was in my 20s, it was simpler, right? Because it was like, hey, Margo, I like you. You're pretty. You want to go to McDonald's, because that's all I could afford, right?
Now they got this
Now
whole list of places you can't take.
there's a whole list, right? You can't bring it to the cheese factory.
I'm like, I'm like, I would be happy to go to all these places. These are some of my favorite places.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The
I was at
movies
the
and ice
point where,
cream. I'm like,
yeah,
yes. One fact, I got a movie date tonight. We have date nights, and yet we're going for movie and ice cream, and I am here for it. Okay,
oh
look.
yeah. I'm all for that. I think it should be something to get back to the simpler approach, because I
Yes.
know when we first started speaking behind the scenes in the green room, you mentioned femininity and masculinity. And I know
Mhm.
there's this debate between the two, because everyone has feminine and masculine energy, every person walking this earth, right? But I think
Mhm.
sometimes we allow it to prevent us from what we would want out of life. So when you defined it, what is your view of femininity and how does it apply when it comes to relationships?
Well, when it comes to relationships in particular, femininity means that you have to stand down, you have to submit. And when people don't like those words, because submission, people often assume that it means slavery and servitude. And it's like, no, it's allowing the stronger one to lead and working together, submitting to the plan. It's like, for example, your mate, your man is supposed to be three things: your protector, provider, and priest. Men are genetically, physically stronger than women. They're designed to protect us physically. You know, if there's a loud sound in the night, I'm not going to check it out. He's going to go check that out. You know, and in general, in mammals, the female is smaller than the man, and the male in general. When you look at animals, any type of mammalian species, the female is designed to be smaller and less strong than the man. We need to understand that. So that tells us the order, the hierarchy right there. Just like animals run in packs, usually the stronger ones are the alphas, and everybody falls in their place. Everybody has a great role to play, but everybody can't be the alpha. The man is the alpha of that house. So he's the protector. He's also the provider. Even if there is a difference in income, even if the woman makes more than the man from an income perspective, he's still the provider, because I'm not fixing the leaky faucet. I'm not protecting this house. I'm not going to investigate when the grass needs to get cut. I'm not taking out the trash. There's still a lot of things provided. When there's certain structure, men provide structure. When the children need to be chastised, they're going to typically respect their father more than the mother. If they don't, that's a problem. My mom would threaten me. Like, my parents separated when I was very young. My father was very active, still is. Anytime I got out of line with my mom, she would threaten to call my dad, and that's all she had to do. The phone call with my dad was enough to get me like, no, I'll stop. And it's the same way, you know, that's how it should be. You should have that fear of your parents. My mom is crazy too, but you know, but the fear, and I'm not even gonna call it fear, the level of respect that I have for my father, even though my mom was a single mother, she still made sure that I knew, you respect your father. This is still the man. This is still our provider, our protector, and our priest, because I have this child. And a lot of women don't teach their children that. Even if the father's not in the house, he is still your father. You're going to respect him. He is still doing for you, even though the relationship didn't work out. So there's that. And then there is the priest. The priest, you know, that is the one whose advice you go to. That is the one who tells you what should be going on. No, a woman who is in a relationship should never value the advice of anyone outside that home more than her man's. You don't make major decisions without consulting him first. All of those types of things. So the man has three roles. If he is not given his respect in those three areas, the relationship will not work.
Do you believe that there's a disconnect maybe because some of the men aren't able to assume that type of role in the relationship?
There could be a disconnect, but it has to do, in my opinion, largely with the lack of submission on the part of the female. We are so busy trying to impose our will upon him that we're not even giving him a chance to be these things. And then the first thing we do is we call him one of two words that are both overly used: narcissistic and toxic. Those two words I hear thrown around so much, and I'm like, that's not even that's not applicable. I hear the word narcissist so much, and honestly, women are more narcissistic than men are when it comes to the true definition of the word. And it's just one of those things where as soon as we don't get our way, oh, you're a narcissist. You hate women. You're shaming us. You're toxic. When we don't get our way, we throw these tantrums. But when men ask for something that they want, and they only really want three things: they want us to look nice, they want us to be peaceful, like we want to be his peace, basically. Don't come fighting me, be cooperative, you know, and they want us to just respect them. That's typically the three things that men, if we can start there, relationships can be a whole lot better, you know, and we're not willing to do that. The first thing we want to do is come and combat him as soon as he comes in the door about what we want, not even considering what he wants. And then we go call the police when we don't get our way. You know, so many domestic issues are started by women. My father's a retired police officer for almost 30 years. And a lot of the calls are domestics. And then when you listen to what happened, the woman started it. And she's winning up calling the police because she can't finish what she started. Yeah.
I have heard that, where there's that like imbalance when it comes to the relationship, and then there's this anytime it escalates, it appears, at least from the officer's side, that many of the times the woman was started, because I think sometimes what people forget is that usually the order of the escalation is verbal, emotional, then physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And men tend to be more physical because, as you mentioned, they're bigger, they're stronger in general. And if someone's going to attack you, or if a woman's going to attack you, one of the first things, or their weapon of choice, is reputational damage.
Yep.
Right. which is why the verbal is so strong. Because anyone listening to this, if you remember high school, everyone knew who the mean girls were. They knew that clique, they knew that circle, and you had to be in the upper echelon of high school to be able to be a part of that group. One thing I want to say when it came to the female and the male dynamic in relationships is that I do agree with you that we would want, at least from a male perspective, the woman to inspire us to be the protector, inspire us to be the provider, inspire us to be the priest. Because if something is going wrong in the relationship, oftentimes you hear a man say that, okay, let's talk about it. Don't go to your family. Don't go to your friends. Don't go to these other things, right? Because I think some people tend to go to their single friends who don't know what they're doing because that's why they're single.
Yep.
So how dangerous is it for men or women to go outside of their relationship, outside of the marriage, and seek the advice of some of these people who haven't been able to hold a serious relationship and who throw around the words toxic and narcissist often?
I think it's very, very dangerous. And I say that because there's a common sense rule. My mom says common sense isn't common. But my thing is this. Anytime we go to anyone for advice about anything, it's usually because we see them manifesting the results that we'd like to have. You know, you go to someone who is financially savvy when you ask about money. You go to someone who has a great job if you want to know how to get a good job. But when it comes to relationships, we ask everybody but people who are in successful relationships for relationship advice. And people don't understand that misery loves company. So here's a story. When I first started dating my husband, one of my best friends at the time did not like that I was spending less time with her and more time with him. Now, granted, she was in a relationship several years too, but she was someone who was not very honoring of said relationship. She liked to party still, and she liked to carry herself in a way that was not representative of a woman who was practically married, you know, with several children. And so when I started hanging out with him more, she actually lied on him to me and told me that he had approached her first before he came to me. And for a second, I was like, wow, that dirty dog. Like, I can't believe that he would talk to my best friend first. And then when she declined him, you know, she tried to talk to me. But what I did was I asked him about it first. And I said, you know what? Such and such told me a funny thing today. And I'm just coming to you first to check the validity of it. And he told me that's not even something I would say. And when I thought about it, I'm like, no, that isn't something he would say. And then he was like, she's probably just, you know, jealous that we're not spending time together. Come to find out, that's exactly what had happened. She just wanted to spend more time with me by lying on him. And I'm just like, wow, any other woman, or I'm not saying most women today would go and just side with the friend, not even give the man a chance to explain himself or to clarify anything, and would just go on with their friend who just wanted them to be out and party and hang out and live that single life. And that's what happens. We go to everybody but who we should for life-changing advice. So I have a motto. Don't ask people who don't have or are not doing what you want or what you want to have. Only ask people for advice who have something or who are doing something that you want to have or do. Otherwise, their advice is irrelevant. So don't go to your single friends. Don't go to your bitter relatives and parents and aunties and stuff like that. Those are some of the worst. You know, a lot of people have, you know, you have that sometimes it could be mothers who are bitter, or it can be aunts or cousins who can't seem to, they couldn't hold a man if he was stuck with super glue, you know, just couldn't. But they have all this advice in the world, or they have this group of friends who are for the streets, you know, and they have a new flavor of the week, you know, and this is who you're going to. Of course, they're going to corroborate anything that keeps you in their circle. It's like crabs in a barrel. They're going to pull you down, and people cannot stand to see other people winning. They can't be happy. No. So no, if you you stay in house. We don't air out our dirty laundry. If there's an issue, we talk to each other about it first. That's where it starts. Because usually things can be nipped in the bud by going straight to the source.
There's always that one test that I do when anyone gives me information like that. I always ask the question, okay, the information that you're giving me, is it working for you? Right? Because usually it isn't, right? Like, you know, that aunt that always seems to, she always shows up at family functions because she doesn't have a family of her own. Right? We all have that family member. We all have that family, right? Or that circle of friends that is like, we're coming out today, we're gonna go party. There's gonna be this girl, that girl, this girl. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be home with my girlfriend or my wife or whatever the
Hmm.
situation is. And you made an interesting point because I experienced that a few years ago where when I was in a relationship during that time, it seemed like I became a pariah, right? Like people started like saying things about me, saying this stuff. And then always, and then I went to them, I said, Saturday night doesn't have to be the only time you see your friends. It could be a
Hmm.
Monday, it could be a Wednesday, it could be a Sunday afternoon. And I remember I told one of my friends, take away women. Will this group of guys still be your friend? Meaning that will they still show up? And he's like, no, they don't. I was like, yes. I was like, women aren't the accessory. You are. Because if I were to remove you, they would still go where the women are. But if I remove the women, they won't be where you are.
Hmm.
All right. And the reason why I say that is because I know you mentioned that you had some friends that, put you in a difficult situation, like you mentioned, as well as they distance themselves from you. Did you, were you surprised that that happened to you?
I was surprised, especially knowing the type of friend that I had been for them, when they were in serious situations where I was the only one they could turn to. I was there and basically helped with some serious things. And so I would think that these people would be happy for me because they knew my situation previously. They knew the person they both advised me to leave him alone for years. So when I finally do and get with somebody who is treating me better and who wants to spend time with me and let me know that, hey, I matter too in the relationship, now it's a problem. So some people actually like you where you are, where they in the box they put you in. And as soon as you try to pop out that box, it's like whack-a-mole. They want to bang you right back down into that hole, that pit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's some people that they want you to be beneath them, under their boots, right? Like
Hmm.
stay broke, stay single, stay can't figure it out because the moment you begin to succeed, you're competition.
And that's what it was for this particular friend that told that non-truth about my husband. We would go places and she would be the one to get all the attention. She was built very voluptuously. So she would get all the attention. And I think she liked it, but she didn't have a car. I had a car. So I was basically her transport to all of the parties and to where she can get this attention that she was seeking that she didn't feel she was getting at home. And so when her Uber ride was over, basically she had to try to find a way to get her chauffeur and her benefactor, right? Because I was also the one paying our way to get into all these places. And granted, it's funny you mentioned accessory because the places we would go and the people we would hang out with were people I would never hang out with, places I would never go had it not been for my best friend asking me to go. It was like that. And so it's great that you put it that way. I'm like, I wouldn't even be in these places had it not been for you. And so now she couldn't go either because I was her alibi or her friend with the vehicle and the means to get in all these places. So yeah, she took issue with them, like, oh no, I gotta find a way to stop that. And she knew because she knew me so well. She knew what to say to make me second guess my situation. Because the way that we even met, we were dating the same guy. That's how we met, became best friends. We were dating the same guy and found out about each other. And we said, hey, we don't fight over boys. We were in high school. We don't fight over boys. And we became great friends. So she already knew that one of my triggers in a relationship was monogamy. And so she knew that she used it against me. And I was like, oh, it almost worked, but no, I knew to ask him first. Not going to make that same mistake twice. And yeah, so we haven't spoken in years.
A few X's ago, I was dating someone and one of her friends told a story that I had a girlfriend in a different city where that
Mm-hmm.
I am. And it was early on in a relationship. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months. So, this is a friend of a friend. So the trust and the believable and the authenticity of what they're saying is pretty high at this point, at least in comparison to what you believe I would say. And she mentioned it to me, but she didn't mention it to me the way you did, where it's like, okay, is this true? She mentions like, hey, this is what was said. And she was like very upset about it. And my response was, well, I understand that you're upset, but if that is truly the case, let's put it to the test. I'm here, you're here, we're going to meet up later today. How about you tell your friend to tell this other person to call me while you're here and say that, yes, Terrain is my boyfriend, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. An hour later, they come back and they say that, oh, that person doesn't have my phone number. I was like, oh,
But I'm their boyfriend.
but I'm their boyfriend.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I took it a step further. I was like, okay, how about fine, maybe they've lost it, or maybe they say that they don't want because of the drama. I was okay. Ask them what my full name is. They should know my first and last name. And they
Right.
didn't know that. So I was like, okay, now I'm not going to believe the story. Margo, let me tell you this ultimate plot twist. And this was the start of my villain arc. She comes back the next day. Text message now, long text message. How can you do this to me and all this other stuff? Even though I proved it wrong. And I wrote back and I was like, wow, this person doesn't know my name. They don't have my phone number. They don't know where I live, but yet I've been in a relationship for them for years. And you believe that. And I think it goes to your point where she was in a situation where someone cheated on her. And I think it was a trigger. So the friends knew exactly which button to press when they wanted things to fall apart. How can someone, let's say you and I, or anyone who's listening, who maybe struggle with that type of trigger, but they want to make sure that they're thinking logically as well?
Understand the psychology of confirmation bias. People are wired. Most of us, we are willing to believe, or more likely to believe, anything that confirms how we already feel. That is a common thing. This is why people don't make change so easily, or we ask for advice and then don't take it when it goes against what we really want. So because these things already confirm what we've experienced, they confirm what we believe to be true, they confirm what we think could be the case, we're not really willing to accept a new paradigm, a new idea, because it doesn't coincide with that mental shift. So what we need to do is focus on working on creating new neural pathways, basically accepting new ideas in the mind. And eventually, once you do it enough, your subconscious mind will begin to accept, and that is more powerful than our conscious mind. We need to understand that what we see in front of us is only a manifestation of that which is in our subconscious. So if we have lack in our life, it's because we have underlying limiting beliefs, even though we may say outwardly we have an abundance mindset. So when it comes to relationships, we have to maintain an abundance mindset, and that comes with eliminating confirmation bias. If we want change, we can't continue to look for things that confirm what we're trying to change from. And that's the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest on anyone's ascension journey to change those habits, to create new neural pathways. But I'm telling you from experience, if you stick with it, your life will change in ways you could never even dreamed. Yeah.
It's like when you're going through someone's social media, someone's phone, you're like, aha, I knew you liked that girl because you liked one of her videos or her picture. And like, you see, I told you, right? And I think that's probably as equally dangerous, especially now because online is such a big deal now, right? Like through social media, online dating, where you can have someone in your mind, your confirmation bias, right? Thinking, I think my boyfriend is attracted to this person. So you dig and you search and you search. And if you find that one thing, it justifies all your behavior in the present and anything that you do. So if you key her car, if you try to change a Wi-Fi password, if you try to do all these crazy things, you're like, you're not going to even interact with this girl anymore. So when we are looking to find the success that you have had, right? Because you had this situation, it didn't work out. You met someone else, it worked out, and now you're helping women. What are some of the common roadblocks that women face in dating today?
We need to learn and see ourselves as the best way I can put it is not quite the commodity. We have to understand and see ourselves as a marketing thing from a marketing perspective. Women love to shop, so I love to use shopping as an analogy. When men are choosing women, and keep that in mind, men choose us, we don't choose them. When men are choosing women, in any type of marketing, most dollars are spent more on the packaging than the product. You can have the greatest product, but if your packaging, if your presentation is not up to standard, people are not really going to be interested in the product that's inside. So when men are looking for a wife, not flavor of the week. You know, when they're looking for a wife or something long term, they're going to really, really hunker down on what's important to them. And one of the things that is most important, well, two of the things are our appearance and our level of cooperation. Those are the two things that men look at. Men are visual, women are more emotional, and men are more affected by what they see. Women are affected by what we hear, which is why as soon as somebody says something we don't like, here we go, you know. Whereas men, he'd be like, man, shorty, look at that. You know, it's like, and we're just like, oh, but then we also have to understand that we're wired differently and accept that. We don't like it. I don't like it. You know, I'm a woman, you know, I'm not saying I'm not, but I've learned to accept the differences in how we're wired. So when women have issues in their relationships, a lot of times the common thing that I'm seeing is that he doesn't understand. He's not emotionally, you know, his emotional IQ is not quite there. You know, he wants to do this and all he wants is physical things and this and that. I'm like, yeah, he's a man. They're primal, you know, they want that. So, and it's like, and if you feel that you've been cheated on by someone, usually that person was maybe more visually appealing or more cooperative. Those are the two reasons that I noticed that men will step outside. And it's a lot of times we've been given a chance to correct these things, but we don't because we're so in our feelings. He doesn't like me as I am. This is how I am. This is how I am. Okay, no. Again, we go back to marketing. In what store, what business is able to stay open that does not cater to its consumer? If you're going to a car dealership and you say, hey, I want an electric vehicle, and they keep showing you combustion engines, you know, the stuff that takes gas, you're like, you're not listening at all, but you want me to spend $30,000, $40,000 with you, and you're not even listening to the basic thing that I want. No, thank you. I'm going to go down here to Tesla, you know, where I know I can get an electric vehicle. We do the same thing to men. I want a woman who looks pretty good, who takes care of herself, and who can maybe not nag me all day as soon as I come home from work. What do you mean to tell me? Are you saying I'm ugly? Are you saying that I'm out of shape? Are you saying that what I want doesn't matter? It's the same thing. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go down here to this place with more agreeable, more attractive women because you clearly aren't even willing to cater to your customer. So find yourself a customer that wants to buy what you're selling because I'm not the one. And we get mad. Our customers tell us what they want. And that's why you see places that were just chicken restaurants now selling burgers. You know, I'm sure you've been to a restaurant like, wait, tacos at breakfast tacos at McDonald's, like that type of stuff. It's like, you are a burger joint. Like, but it's like, well, if the market is asking for this, we want to be competitive. We have to shift our business model because we know it's either sink or swim. And women seem to not understand how to accept that. So I use the dented can analogy. If you're shopping in a grocery store and you see some soup, same soup, apples to apples, one of the cans is dented and the label is hanging off, and then the other can is in pristine condition, but the product is the same and it's the same price. I'm going for the better looking can because why not? You know, because I can. The same thing is with men. Women outnumber men significantly. So men have the option of choice. Anytime a product outnumbers its consumer, the consumer has the advantage. And women, we keep thinking that we're the prize and we're what needs to be said. No, honey, we have to be competitive. We have to make sure that our can has as many dings knocked out of it as possible. Make sure that we are marketable. Make sure that we're like, hey, when you get me home, I'm going to give you exactly what you came to the store for. You're going to wish you met me sooner. You know, we have to have that enthusiasm. And we lose that a lot of times. And like my thing is, we have to be like the puppy in the window. We got to be happy to see him when he comes in, tails wagging. Like I've actually been told to calm down because I'm basically a cheerleader. I'm like, hey, you're home. It's you. It's you. But that's how men should be made to feel because I'm expecting you to protect me. I'm expecting you to provide for me. I'm expecting you to give me advice. I'm expecting you to basically, I know that you know, you forewent several women to get to me because you got more choices than I have. So heck yeah, I'm about to be your biggest cheerleader. And if we could just do that, and like you say, inspire him to want to be those things, to want that can be it. That can change the world.
Amen. Preach, Margo, preach. 100% agree. And it goes back to just qualifying. And I love that analogy you gave because I use a similar one when it comes to work because you have to prepare yourself for it. Right? Like if you go into a store, as you mentioned, and you have two cans of soup. Same across the board. The only difference is one is dented, one isn't. You're gonna go for the one that's in better condition. That's the way it
Mhm.
works. And that better condition, not only physical, ladies, before you come and get to me and say Train's fat phobic and body shaming and all this other stuff, right? But as she looks away. But but
Because I can touch on that too, but I'm gonna let you finish your.
absolutely. So that's the thing. Like it's the packaging. Even where it's the holiday season when we've done this, even the holiday season. When you run down as kids, when you run down with parents, when you run down to the tree and you look under the Christmas tree, you immediately go for the gift that looks the best, the
Mhm.
shiniest, the best wrapped, everything. And that's how we need to start looking at our dating relations, because there's some people who aren't for us because they don't qualify for us. And there's some people that we don't qualify for. And
Mhm.
that's perfectly okay. We just need to understand, as you mentioned, the market and say, okay, this is the type of market I want to compete in.
Mhm.
Then you survey that market. You say, okay, you know what? This man down here, he has this kind of job. He looks like this. This person down here is this kind of job. Looks like this. The women who are attracted to these two types of men, I have a choice. Either I can compete or I don't compete. But it
Mhm.
seems like we do. Well, when we don't compete, we complain, right? And then when we complain, we
Yeah.
run our clients out of the store. Could you imagine going into your local Walmart? You want to buy something, and they say, "You get out. You're the reason. You're the reason. You're the reason. You're the problem." And you're like, "What did I do? I just want to get some blankets." I say, "Nope, we don't sell those kind of blankets because we're pushing on it. We can't push it on to the clients. We have to say, okay,
Mhm.
this is what we're going to sell. Let's listen." They may say that, you know what, I like your blanket, but have you thought about a floral pattern? Next week, floral patterns flies
Mhm.
off the shelves, right? So, what are your thoughts?
I completely agree. And it's funny because I'm a master trainer. I do body transformations as far as fitness coaching, because again, men are visual, but also it helps us feel and look better. And I've done a personal transformation because I wasn't happy with how I look. So it's like start with self. And that's how it started. But it's just like, yeah, so it's not so much shaming. You have a preference. Women need to understand that 90% of us want 10% of y'all. You know what I'm saying? So yes, we have to compete with a whole lot of women for our ideal man. And realizing that we're not realizing that we actually qualify for the man that's less than half of the type of man we really want. A lot of times, a lot of us were like, he's not making enough money, you know. So like uh, the average heavily melanated man in America makes about $41,000 a year. You say that to a woman, and she is talking about you like you are just nothing. And it's just like, but that's the average. That's what most men make. And all of a sudden you're not qualified. Meanwhile, she doesn't look too great. She is getting public assistance and she has children with multiple men. And it's like, ma'am, be happy that this average man is considering your below average position, because, you know, he could have someone who does not have the baggage that you bring, does not have the attitude that you're giving, does not that has a better appearance. So we need to really pipe down on our expectations and honestly be grateful when someone above average shows interest in us.
Like here in Canada, it's about the same thing. It's about 42 to about 44,000 for the average
Mhm.
man that looks like me. And
Mhm.
for the average woman that looks like you, it's a few thousand less. And
Exactly.
right,
But we
there's always
want
this.
six figure men, you know.
Exactly, yeah, because we don't want to work. So there's always this joke that, okay, if you're okay with you, let's say we throw a number out there. If you're, as a woman, if you're okay making $38,000 a year,
Mhm.
then in theory you should be okay having a partner making that amount, because together you're making 76,000. But they're like, no, I want this person to be making 100,000 or more, which is less than 10%
Mhm.
of everyone. So that's if you're going to date black, brown, pink, purple, green,
Exactly. And
right?
then
So
if
there's a
you go to
struggle.
straight to an even smaller demographic of us, it's less
Mm.
than like 3%. It's actually might be 1 or 2% now, I think, in the States.
Yeah, it's quite low, right? So I
Mhm.
think some people need to understand that that six-figure mark, 100,000 or more, it is attainable, but very few people do it. And that's if you say, okay, I want a man across the globe that is every which color. Once you start to narrow down to, let's say, six figures, okay, it's to be
Mhm.
6 foot tall. then you're like, okay, he has to be in entertainment.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So how do you help them to expand or at least broaden their pool of eligible men? Because we all have preferences, but sometimes the preferences get in our way.
Yeah, and so what happens is a lot of women, especially, I hate to say most women who I work with who look like me, I'm trying to be politically correct here because I'm very blunt in my coaching sessions, but I don't want people to cancel me before I even get on to where I'm trying to be, because I don't want to trigger people, because and everything that I say is from a place of love. It is never from a place of being malicious. I say that, I have to give my disclaimer statement. I say either change your expectations or change yourself. Now, if you like a certain type of man and you're not willing to budge, then you're going to have to become what this man wants. My thing is who are you willing to become to qualify for what you want? Because as you are is not qualifying. And that's every person can take it. If you aspire for something that is way beyond where you currently are, you're going to have to, again, that mental paradigm shift, create some new neural pathways, make some changes, and get rid of that confirmation bias. You got to do something different to get different results. And so, well, then if you want to keep this type of man in mind, then who are you willing to become in order to qualify for him? And there's only so much we can do within our own means. But okay, if you know this person, for example, you say entertainment, people in entertainment want arm candy. You want somebody who you're proud of to bring to the red carpet. Somebody who you can interact, can compete with the type of women who his counterparts are around, because otherwise you're going to feel inferior. You're going to feel some type of way. You're going to be accusing him of things. It's going to be very insecure for you to be around these type of women if you're not on or near that level. So if your appearance is substandard, there are certain things we can do about that. So we may need to improve our level of fitness, improve our level of grooming, those types of things. And also men like that do not have to deal with a lot of mess. So we need to tone down the attitude. We have to become more cooperative. We have to basically outperform everybody who we're competing against. And we don't understand. We're always competing. Even when you have something, you're fighting to keep it, whether you know it or not. You have to, otherwise it's breach of contract. When a person gets in a relationship, they signed up for something at the onset. If those things change, it's breach of contract, because hey, you stole me on this, and now I'm getting a different thing. And in anything outside of relationships, you can actually sue for fraud and win in court. So how come women get mad when men are no longer interested in us if we look significantly different than we did when you all got with us? If our willingness to be cooperative has diminished, if we're giving you more lip than we did before you locked in, if we're doing all this, is like, no, honey, breach of contract. I didn't sign up for all this. Be mad. And then you wonder why I left, because this is what I wanted to avoid when I got with you. I got with you because you were not these things. So then when we become those things and we get left behind, we're surprised and we're angry. And he's a narcissist. He's toxic. He's those words. And then when I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
And
You're on a roll. Please finish. Go ahead.
And it's like, and another thing is, men, y'all tell us. You all will tell us, hey, honey, I have one client who got mad because her husband invited her to come to the gym with him. And he was saying, honey, I want us to get in shape together. With something we could do together. I'm trying to get myself together. Why don't you join this journey with me? And she got so upset. She got so mad. She cursed him out. She was very horrible toward him. And I'm like, he gave you that was your chance to get it together. He gave you an opportunity first. I'm like, now you got to watch your back. Because he gave you the chance to get it together. You're not what he married, what he signed up for. And he gave you an opportunity to get better. You see, he's trying to better himself. If you see your man trying to better himself, you should already know, hey, what we doing? Let's get on this together. You going to the gym? We going to the gym? All right, we're going to the gym. And it helps you all stay motivated and accountable. And it's like, I'm a trainer. My husband looks better than me. I'm like, crap, now I got to go harder. I'm like, dude, so we got a little healthy competition going in the house. And we went out the other night, and somebody who was working the door said, man, y'all are a great looking couple. And I'm sitting there thinking under my breath, like, I got to be. Shoot, you see him? I got to keep up, But again, we have to have that type of enthusiasm for our mate, because we need to know that we're competing all the time and giving people what they signed up for. It's a breach of contract. Women complain all the time. He's not making as much money when I met him. He don't look at me like he used to, and all this stuff. But then when we're not giving him something to see anymore, when we're not behaving the way we used to, what do you expect?
How difficult is it for women to understand that and make the necessary changes?
It's difficult for a lot of women, especially there's two types of women who it's the most difficult to get through to. Women who are high earners, because women often think that men value what we do for a living or our money, and they don't. They don't care about that type of thing. If you notice, you usually get treated on for a quote unquote broke chick, Honestly, every time that I'm aware that I've been cheated on, it was always with a quote unquote lesser woman. And it was because men want to be needed. Women need to be wanted. If we can put that in perspective, the moment we treat a man like we don't need him is the moment we've lost him to a large degree. So yeah, he's going to go with someone who gives him the semblance that he's needed, and he doesn't care about how much she has, So we tend to think, well, I do this and I do that. That's actually, for him, that's masculine energy. Ambition is a masculine trait. It has its role in life with women, but we can't bring that to the relationship. We have to get on the his program. It's great if we have a great career. That's nice, but it's not a qualifier for him. And a lot of women who are established, financially or with status, and it tends to be a lot of my women who are 40 plus, who may have had a lot of time, who built a career, who have degrees and all this other stuff, or who even have established families. It is so hard for me to get through to them that, hey, that's wonderful, that's great. But in the scope specifically of a relationship, those things do not matter. He cares about what you look like, how cooperative you are, how inspirational you are, and how you are basically making him look, because men's reputations are important. You're bad for business if you're embarrassing him. And a lot of things we do can be embarrassing. And so that's the hardest thing. And then the other group that is hard to get through to are the 25 and under crowd. Sweet Lord, bless their hearts. And I think because they are so into social media and to the online perception that they forget that that's just a perception, is not reality. And a lot of times they want to bring what they see on TV and on social media into their real lives, and wonder why men are just totally turned off by the obnoxious behavior, by the boisterousness, by the being loud, by the fronting them off, by being proud of having multiple sex partners. That whole thing, by a lot of the artificial accoutrements, such as the hair, the surgeries, the excessive makeup. Men don't want that. Men would appreciate an average looking woman who was natural with herself than somebody who looks like Janice from the Muppets. And I'm sure you probably know who that character is. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, show him what he's getting. Men want to know what they're getting. We clown men for being fake, for having spray on hair color, for having the toupees, for having stuffed areas of their clothing. Meanwhile, we're baked on, caked on, got on somebody else's hair, somebody's horse's hair, 22 layers of stuff wrapped around us to keep stuff in place. And we call them fake and phony. We are the master catfishers, women. Make it make sense. Yeah, so I tell them, we don't have to do all that. Men would rather have a real woman who's average. At least he knows what he's getting, than somebody he's got to guess. Are you going to look like this when you take all that stuff off?
It's like, I call it the morning after reveal, where you're like,
oh, the reveal.
The reveal. Like, I know what you look like when we went to the bedroom together, but now it's the morning. Do you still look somewhat the same, right?
I have a friend who said he's taking all his dates moving forward to the water park. First date, water park. That's where we're going.
Those women don't go swimming. They don't go swimming at all. That's a true test. Let's go into some water.
Mm-hmm. Yep, right. That way, whatever you got on is coming off, and I get to see what's really going on before I spend another dime on you. And it cracks me up. But yeah, I'm like, it makes sense. I got friends on social media. I'm like, that's not how, you don't look like that in person. I got a friend who's like, who is that? Oh, that's you. It's just like, I should be able to recognize you in person. If I see you on. I should at least know who you are.
As we close, Margo, what advice do you want to leave with our audience today when it comes to dating, especially the women?
My advice is to know our place. Knowing your place is not, again, is not putting anyone down. It's knowing where you stand in the marketplace of life. When it comes to dating, and if we truly, truly do want a certain type of man, we have to make sure that we qualify. It's just like in education. You don't get a PhD without going through, get your associates, get your bachelor's, get your master's, and then your PhD. There's levels to things. So we can't go from a GED to a PhD. Doesn't work like that. But we can take steps to close that gap. So we need to have understanding that our expectations are only as realistic as our willingness to go for it. We can't expect people to meet us where we are. We have to put ourselves where we want to be. That's how that works. The men have the choice, not us. We control access to sex. Men control access to relationships. And the moment we realize that and we stop using sex as the only catalyst for relationships, then we can actually get somewhere.